Hey, what's up guys? James Grage here. About to jump into my shoulder workout today, so I thought I'd go ahead and share it with you for anyone who wants to work out at home or needs to work out at home. This is an awesome way to get a killer shoulder workout. You don't need weights, you don't need machines, you don't need a gym, and yes, you can build just as much muscle using resistance bands as you can with weights, despite what people think. I've been using resistance bands only for 2.5 years now, exclusively, no gym, no weights, no machines, just bands, and I feel awesome. So I'm gonna share with you some of my favorite exercises. So we're gonna jump right into it. One little quick tip, I do use full fingered gloves when training with resistance bands with free weights. I never did, but with resistance bands, it's something about the texture of it. It just ends up taking some skin off the side of your hand, so I prefer to go ahead and use gloves so I don't have that distraction of the skin peeling off my bones. I do prefer loop style bands. I used to train with the tube style with the handles, but they're a little bit bulky with all the carabiners and handles, etc. Plus there's some extra tricks, things that you can do with this loop style band that you can't do with the tube style, and I'll actually share some of those tricks with you guys. So I'm gonna grab this one right here, is the largest. This is the extra heavy band, you can see that right there. The set that I use is Under Sun Fitness, comes with 5 different levels of resistance, so you can see there's a handful of them here, all the way down to little tiny ones like this, which yes, I actually use these for certain exercises. We'll probably even use these today with some of our shoulder isolation movements. So the first one though, is a good old-fashioned single arm press. Now the way you want to do this, you want to anchor this under one foot, the same foot that you're going to press with. Now, you don't have to try to heave this thing up here. That's one of the ways that we get injured, especially using free weights. It's in the setup and the takedown. That's where a lot of times we get those little impingements, those pains. We're like, oh God, you know, it wasn't even from pressing it. So with bands, the nice thing is we can load and deload the band. So right now, there is no load on this. It's nice and relaxed. So I can squat down here and get in a position just like that. So this is our starting position. You want to keep this band on the back side of your elbow. That's one of the things that I see people doing wrong when they do this movement. Using bands for the first time, as their elbow ends up coming between like that. You don't want to do that. Keep it to the back side. All right? So we're going to go ahead and start with 15 reps. Want these to be good, nice controlled reps. Control your rep speed, nice controlled concentric. Squeeze that isometric and control that negative, that eccentric. Proper rep speed gives you proper time under tension, and that's one of the triggers for building muscle. Most people use sloppy form, they rush the reps, and therefore they don't get the proper amount of time under tension. Here's a little trick. Just like you pair up plates in the gym, let's say you're doing bench press and you put on a plate on one side and then you put another plate, well, you can do the same thing with bands. I can take this one, even just add a little bit more resistance, or maybe step up, use the light band plus the heavy. I'll try that. Same thing, just as before, anchor both right under your foot. Here we go. Oh yeah, that's hard. I actually think I'm going to drop down and take that extra light. That's a perfect example of when you would use that little band. It doesn't matter how strong you are, trust me, you'll end up using that band. All right. Now, one of the cool things about training with bands, especially in a movement like shoulders, is you have resistance almost in every direction. That's why you see people start to shake when they're not used to training with bands. They actually think it's awkward, but that's because they're not used to having to fire all of those stabilizer muscles isometrically to stabilize. In other words, your rotator cuff. When we're doing free weights, we're just more focused on that single plane of resistance. So it's a great way to strengthen that rotator cuff, which also means injury prevention. So while we're resting between sets here, I thought I'd show this to you guys. It's a brand new issue of Muscle and Fitness magazine. And they did a pretty cool feature here. Resistance band training, Grage against the machines. And so basically I went through and did 8 exercises for every single body part. Really just an introduction to resistance band training. But like I said, that's only 1 exercise for every body part. So what we're doing here is we're hitting multiple exercises for shoulders. If you check out some of the other videos that I've done, I've got some great chest workouts, back workouts, etc. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, already feeling it, man. Now, one of the things in the gym with free weights that we're used to is when we start to get fatigued, we're trying to force out a couple extra reps, we have a tendency to bounce or do anything to generate momentum to help us cheat those reps. Unfortunately, with bands, you can't cheat. You can't create momentum with bands. So those final reps are extra challenging. All right, that's 4 sets. Already feeling good pump, good burn. So we're gonna move on to exercise number 2. That was a compound movement. Anytime you use more than 1 joint, so we're using both the shoulder and the elbow, that's a compound movement. We're gonna move into an isolation movement for the shoulders, for the middle delt, and that's gonna be a side raise. And you can see we're only using 1 joint here. Now, when people do dumbbells, a lot of times I see people doing a lot of stuff like this. No, don't go so heavy, go lighter, get good range of motion. Now, I'm gonna show you 2 different ways to do this. Both work really well. One of them I happen to like better than the other. First thing, don't let your ego get in the way here. Don't try to grab a big, super heavy band. This one right here, if you can see it, that one's the light band, all right? I'll show you the first way. This one is anchoring it with our own body. So if we're gonna come out here with our right arm, what I want you to do is step on it with your right foot. But we're not gonna just come out here. You can see the band is too slack. You're not gonna have resistance through the full range of motion. And that's a lot of the problem that you have with dumbbells. Think about it. Holding a dumbbell and doing a side raise, you don't have a lot of resistance until you hit about here. Here's just like a pendulum, it just swings. So we wanna make sure we have full resistance all the way through that range of motion. So, a couple ways to do this. One, I could just leave it anchored under my right foot. Instead of grabbing here, I'm gonna grab lower down, all right? I told you there's some advantages of the tube style or the loop style versus tube. This is one of them. We're not limited by that handle position anymore. We can grab this band wherever we want. And the more we stretch a band, or the more we shorten the length of it, the more tension that we can create. So this is one way. Now I've got resistance from here all the way up. But I like to have a little more resistance, more across my body and then up. So here's that little trick. Step on it with your other foot. One, we're shortening the band, right? Taking out some of that slack. Now I actually can grab it within the loop there. But the other thing is, look at the angle of pull. Now I've got resistance across my body starting right here. So resistance all the way through. Now I'm going to show you one more way to do it, and that's using an anchor point. So if you're next to a pull-up bar, you can always loop the band around the pull-up bar and then loop it through itself, or you can use a door anchor. Now a door anchor just has a nice soft foam end, and it's got a loop on the other end. And what you do, you open your door, you shut the foam part in there, and then you run the band through the loop and through itself. Now, if you don't have a door anchor, there are ways to hack it. You could take anything. This happens to be the case for one of my travel tripods. Just has a little nylon strap here. I could do the exact same thing. Let me take the door anchor out. Use my travel bag here. Do the same thing. Voila. And that's strong. Okay? So there are some ways to do it if you don't have access to a door anchor. I still recommend getting one of these if you can though. The reason being, the nice foam end here just protects your door, keeps it from getting scratched, etc. So we're gonna anchor this nice and low for this particular exercise. And that's the other nice thing about it. You can anchor it at different heights, low, medium, or high, depending on the exercise, depending on the angle that you want. One little trick though, I recommend doing it like I did here, which is on the inside of the door. So as I pull on this, it actually pulls the door closed, as opposed to being on the other side of the door. If that latch were to accidentally come unlocked, as you're pulling on it, that thing's gonna come flying open. So if possible, be on this side of the door, the closing side of the door. So we got a nice low anchor point here. Now what I can do is I can step away from that anchor point and look at where my hand is. I've got tension all the way here at this side of my body. Before, when we were anchoring under the 1 foot, tension started here, from here to here. When I stepped on it with the opposite foot, then I had tension from here to here. Now I can get tension all the way from over here, all the way through. So it's gonna look like this. All right, so that's another option. Now I'm gonna take this out. We're gonna go ahead and do the movement unanchored though. Just wanted to give you guys that option, let you know that you have a ton of different options when it comes to bands. And one of the cool things is we don't rely on resistance from gravity anymore, which is just in the vertical plane. We can create resistance in any plane. The horizontal plane just gives us a lot of different variety, and that's one of the things I love about band training. So as we do these, one little trick that I want you to think about. Don't think about pulling up towards the ceiling. I want you to think about pulling out towards the sides. All right, and that doesn't seem like a big change, but trust me, it makes a big difference here in the contractions that you get and that mind-muscle connection. Ready? Control isometric, control the eccentric, same thing on your concentric. Now, if this gets too hard, all I have to do is narrow my stance a little, and I just lengthen the band, and I just made it easier. So you can actually adjust your resistance on the fly. So why out to the sides versus up? Well, if you just think about up, that's where you start to see a lot of this bad form like this. When you think out to the sides, it promotes keeping that arm nice and straight and really just focusing on that middle delt. That's one of the things when people are doing reps, they just think it's a counting game. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, done. No, make sure that you focus on every single rep. Get maximum contraction every single rep. Really focus on that mind-muscle connection. I could make a muscle burn without any kind of resistance, just sitting there doing isometrics. So if you can do it without resistance, imagine what a contraction you can get, what a good contraction you can get if you put that same kind of effort or focus into every single rep. One more. One of the cool things about being able to adjust the resistance on the fly like that is you can make sure by the time you get to the end of your reps that you really have hit that wall. So for example, if I got halfway through and it was too easy, I could always go ahead and widen my stance a little, take out some of that extra slack in the band, make it harder, and challenge myself more. Or if it's the opposite, I get halfway through and I realize I'm dying and I'm not gonna make it to my number of reps that I need, I can go ahead and narrow my stance. So pretty cool little trick. Already, I feel those delts. Like I said, you can get an insane workout with bands. The pump you get is crazy. A lot of that is with the constant tension that you have all the way through the range of motion. A lot of it is the fact that they have what a lot of people call linear variable resistance, meaning the more you stretch a band, the harder it gets, and this more closely matches the natural strength curve of our muscle. So a lot of reasons why you get a great pump. I think one of it just promotes really good form too. It highlights any bad form. For example, people who don't control their eccentrics. Let's say we're doing our side raises and the people who just let gravity pull that dumbbell back down. If you do that with a band, you're gonna come up here and if you try to relax it, it's gonna snap your arm right back in place. So it kind of keeps you in check with your form. Oh man. Now this exercise and the next one we're about to do is one where I see people use a lot of momentum. You see them like really like bouncing up and down like they're trying to fly or something. Same thing on this next exercise, which is gonna be front raises, but we're gonna do a variation of it because we're not gonna just hit the anterior delt with our front raise. We're gonna combine that with a pull apart to hit rear delts as well. So I'll show you what that's gonna look like. Now this is one of the cool things about training with bands is you can get creative, like I said, and do movements that normally you couldn't do with dumbbells. Think about it, you can do a front raise with dumbbells, but if you try to do a rear fly, there's no resistance for you really going backwards. You're not working your rear delts. You'd be working your middle delt, holding the dumbbell up, but squeezing it backwards, you're not really working your rear delt. Here we are because we're gonna be stretching the band apart. So here's what it's gonna look like. Anchor it under both feet. You can adjust your resistance, like I said, by grabbing lower on the band if you wanted to. You see all that slack in the middle? So that's one way for you to adjust the resistance besides going up and down in different bands. So, two-part movement. Turn sideways here. So first part, to the front, and then pull it apart. Now, if you want more resistance on the pull apart, that's where I recommend you keeping your hand position a little closer together, which is gonna require more rear delts as you stretch that apart. So I'm just gonna go about shoulder width apart. All right, same thing as before, 15 reps. So up, out, back to the center, and down. Keep those arms nice and straight as you do the rear fly. In other words, don't bend your elbows. Shouldn't look like this, okay? You start bending your elbows, a lot of the movement then comes in your traps. Now you're working your middle traps and rhomboids. We want to focus on our rear delts, so stay nice and disciplined. Forward, straight arm, pull apart, and down. Yeah. All right, two more. There's 15. Control that eccentric. That's no joke. That's no joke. Halfway through that, I was starting to think, man, which band am I going to use next for my heavier set? I don't think I could do that medium band with good form, to be honest. All right, so there you go. There's your complete shoulder workout, just 3 exercises. We smoked the delts, anterior, middle, middle, and rear delt with just 5 bands there. Like I said, if you want to pick up a set, you can pick them up, undersunfitness.com. Also have some great complete training programs on there. So this is just a workout, a shoulder workout. But the TA2 build program is a 5-day muscle building split. So the same way that you would train in the gym is the way that we train in that program. Different exercises for all the different muscle groups. It's broken up into a weekly calendar, so it's nice and organized in there. Videos for every exercise, photos for reference, etc. So that's the TA2 build program. TA2 stands for train anytime, train anywhere, which is what you can do when you're training with bands. You can even train right here in a little tiny space just with a door. So I'm James Grage. Hope you guys got an awesome workout. Make sure to check out some of the other videos, chest workout, back workout, or like I said, you can go to undersunfitness.com and check out the full training programs or get your Undersun bands. Link down below. I'll see you guys next time.